Hello and welcome everyone to episode 15 of the SkyTemple Podcast, an exercise and enthusiastic rambling about Explorers of Sky ROM hacks. My name is MaxSchersey, coming to you live from the US West Coast. From down under in Australia, I'm joined by yakkomon, and one more is with us at the beginning on this special episode. We are joined by Filthy, who, according to my sources, fucking loves Charizard. Is this true?
How the fuck did you know? Holy shit. Seriously though, thank you for having me, guys. It's great to be on here.
Yep.
Pleasure's all ours.
As discussed on the last episode of the pod, we're not going to be really talking about one hack. We are going to be talking about all the hacks that got nominated for Hack of the Year. We are recording this the day that Hack of the Year nominees were all revealed. I have been very busy managing a bunch of stuff in the background and getting things set up now that all that's finally done. But I'm really excited to talk about everything that happened. So the way that we're going to structure this episode, folks, is 13 categories for Hack of the Year, 13 awards being handed out. For each of them, we're just going to go one by one, talk about all the categories, starting from what's going to be first thing revealed at the stream up until the last thing. And, all three of us were /are judges, so we're gonna have our opinions out there. I don't think we're necessarily gonna be like talking about who we put on our ballots or whatever, but stuff about like stuff that we thought was interesting that we didn't expect other people were gonna vote for, and some like storylines on the ballot and all the good juicy stuff. This is a Hack of the Year preview pod. Also, but before we get into the first one, I also want to say the Hack of the Year stream is going to be on this channel, on the YouTube channel, if you're one of the like 10 people that listen on Spotify. On the SkyTemple Podcast YouTube channel, the date and time for that, January 21st at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I don't know the GMT off the top of my head, but
I think for Australian, if there are any Australians listening, I think that is 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. If I remember, it's 7 hours. I'm 7 hours and a day behind you. So I'm sorry, ahead.
Yep.
It's 7 hours behind, but a day ahead. If that
always
makes
in
sense.
the future, always in the future,
Yes.
Always striving.
Yes. The asteroid is coming in an hour and will claim us all.
Oh no!
That's what I like to call pretty awesome.
But you have 12 hours, so you've got more time to prepare.
Oh hell yeah, brother.
Good to know. Thank you for that. Without further ado, let's get started. Category number 1, we have best custom graphics. I'm just going to read off the description of it as it appears on the fan voting form, which forgot to mention that's also available for, by the time this goes live, it's only going to be like the next couple days that you can vote, get your fan voting in. More details in the form, which can be found on the SkyTemple Twitter. We posted information about that on, and also in the SkyTemple Discord. And made a Reddit post, which will that be dead? Like even by the time we're done recording, who knows? That's a great website. Best custom graphics. Awarded to a hack with superior usage of graphics outside of existing Explorers of Sky assets, including graphics quality and its integration as a supplement to the narrative. Your nominees are Artificial Revenant Chimera by Kate Sif, Illusion by Team Stardust, and Spanky and Munchel's Day Off by Ass Cucumber yakkomon. So first thing I want to say about this category I think there's actually a lot of stories here. All three of these, first of all, this is the only category that all three of these got nominated for. As we go through, we're gonna see a lot of the same names keep coming up over and over again for some of these categories, but these are three totally unique ones that don't show up in any other categories. That's pretty cool. Let's see, another thing about that Delusion here. The only hack that got nominated across this whole list that was released prior to 2022. That's something that I was personally curious about going in terms of because this is the first iteration of Hack of the Year. There were hacks that came out in 2020 and 2021, so we allowed those to be entered as well. But Delusion, the only one from before 2022 to actually get nominated, so worked out anyways. And of course, I have to point out for Spanky and Munchel's Day Off, folks can go back and rewatch the Ask Cucumber episode of the podcast in which he said if he could just get past those damn judges, he is guaranteed to win.
Based.
So,
and I will say that although my name is on the creator list for Spanky and Muchel, I can say 100% without a doubt I played absolutely no role in creating the custom graphics. So if this is a pure cucumber win, if this wins, so I I will be the cucumber aesthetic. I think it's. I personally think it's great that it got nominated.
And again, with all three of these, the big part that sticks out is the words including graphic quality and its integration as a supplement to the narrative. And all three of these, the hacks themselves are amazing, but they do such a good way of doing it in such different ways. With Ark, it's all about like setting the world. You're in a factory as a type null in a Sylvali, and you've got to set the world there. With Delusion, it's a haunted house. You're surrounded by all sorts of spooky things. The enemies are custom delusions, if you will. And then Spanky and Munchel's Day Off is a meme, just like the hack, in the most positive way. I say that with all the love in the world. Honestly, all three of them really impressed me as I played through them, and they're all really, really worthy of playing through.
I agree. I think all three of these have their own argument depending on how you judge the category. That's kind of the fun of it, I guess, or the frustrating part of it, however you want to look at that. Where I guess what I'll say is that like Spanky Munchel's like it's a meme. It's also like a very like the Ask Cucumber art style at this point has become somewhat of kind of like an iconic thing. It's you're having some of the same backgrounds getting like reused but also like reiterated upon and keeping the same style for like 4 hacks now that he's done. I believe it is, or 3.
Yes, I think it's 3. I think yes, 3 at the moment.
Yeah, and especially with Spanky and Muchel. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, with Spanky and Muchel, it's very, very surreal to just like play through it and see the stuff that pops up. I was streaming this game at one point, and I have this friend. Shoutouts to you, Quinn, if you're listening to this. They're a massive fan of Splatoon, right? So we're playing through this, and suddenly the Splatoon graphic pops up, and they lost their shit. It's just like stuff like that. And believe it or not, custom maps, especially for SkyTemple, they're so hard to integrate through without messing up. It's really impressive, honestly, and also really funny. He did a great job implementing this stuff.
Yes. I will say, adjacent to the custom graphics, I will say now that it's past this, and well, we had the Cucumber episode before it came out. The only reason why this hack exists is because I wanted to make a hack that referenced the greatest meme in-joke in the SkyTemple community, which is Bully Yakko. That's literally the inspiration of it all. And like as soon as I saw the MS Paint background of that dojo location, I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
This is like it was one of those ones where it was I hate keeping secrets. It's like everyone's gonna like be so laughing so much when they see like people are gonna see that background and go, "Oh wait, no." Oh,
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Anything generally related to the greatest named hack of all time, Chatok comes out of the closet.
That's
That's
facts.
a giant win. That's a giant win.
What else? Yeah, whatever. This was supposed to be a part of me going quickly through saying like the argument for the three of them. That's right. So what? Spanking Munchless, we talked about that. Illusion. I think the main thing for me is just that that tile set for the mansion's really good. And that's another one that. Oh, you thought importing backgrounds was hard? Try working with fucking tile sets in this game. Good God, it makes you want to fucking die. So, definitely have my respect for that one. And for ARC, like you said, Filthy, just the aesthetic is really tied together. And I think even in a lot of hacks that use custom assets, there still is a need to rely on what's in the game, just because adding that many backgrounds is not easy. But I don't even think that there's any like Explorers of Sky backgrounds in this game that I can remember. I think it's literally all custom. Granted,
there's exactly one at the very end of the game.
Okay.
You can just say "fuck you" to all the enemies or all your friends and just leave, and you end up leaving where you're basically where Sharpedo Bluff is.
Okay.
You're like, holy shit, where the fuck did Munchl and Spanky build this? How'd they not notice this?
Exactly. It's just crazy, but it's true.
That's what I always think. That's what I always think about hacks that take place with Sharpedo Bluff scenes. I'm always thinking, do the player and partner of Vanilla Sky not know all of these events? That, like,
better be at
it's
least
like
getting a rent out of this.
I hope so.
Yeah, still really cool. And side note, the idea of the custom Pokemon are really cool. Like Mienshao is always a good choice. I really love the use of Hisuian Typhlosion of all Pokemon. Because, you know, Charizard as it is, as underrated as it is, Typhlosion itself just being a clone, the Hisuian one at least has some variation. So that's a little shout out. And also, the Sprigatito. Just getting the little meme there out of the Sprigatito.
Some people are saying that his name is actually Hisuian Jotonian Charizard.
Oh yeah, the unbeatable Hisuian Johto. I'm sorry. See what I mean by underrated? They should honestly give him another form for that. I'm sorry, guys. My bad. Has nothing on Charizard.
Any more thoughts from you two on best custom assets? Best custom graphics, rather.
Let's see. I guess the one thing I'd say, if I remember correctly, in Delusion, when you're in, it's one of my favorite uses of Monster Houses, because as you're in there, you'll notice some of the enemies look all sorts of glitchy and out of sorts.
That was cool.
So, yeah, then you'll notice there are all sorts of screen clearing moves, and you're wondering why are they there? And then you realize all the enemies in the houses are weak, and it's part of a plot twist there that I'd rather not mention to anyone who might be interested in playing Delusion, but it fits in really, really well. The graphics also fit in story-wise too. All three of these have really good cases to win.
I agree. This is gonna be real tight. This is one of those categories where it's definitely like the fan vote's gonna matter a lot.
It's open.
It's gonna matter a lot for sure. Okay, moving on. Most unique and creative. Awarded to a hack that pushes the stylistic boundaries of Explorers of Sky ROM hacking through design choices expressed in gameplay, narrative, and other supporting elements, which is what you put at the end when you just don't want to have a technicality. Something. They'll cover your ass clause. Your three nominees are Fragments Chapter 2 Facade, Phantasme, and Psychic Puppets. Two of these we had episodes for on the pod, and then one of them, Fragments, been like a recurring meme that the Fragments episode is coming and it hasn't come yet. So, I think this one was, I guess, just a little bit of leaking since I had access to the responses. It was very all over the place. I think a lot of people interpreted this category very differently depending on who the judge was. But as you know, as it tends to be when you have such a, we had 11 judges, which I reiterate, I think is a decent amount. So it all kind of averaged out to, I guess, what I would expect, despite all of that. Yeah, we're gonna get to this later. There's a little bit of crossover between the most unique and creative and most technically impressive once we get there, as well. And then kind of that combined with a lot of the weirdo stuff seems to be the two big factors that really impress people in general. Do you two have any general thoughts on this? So far, this category.
So what I'd say in terms of unique and creative is this is going to be the start of a segment called Filthy Gushes Over Psychic Puppets for a little bit. I think the thing that stands out to start with that game is two moves. The first one is called Brainwash, and the second one is called Befriend. They both function the similar way, but the way it works is you basically take control of an enemy or an NPC in a dungeon. And it's not like they become your friend or anything. You literally just mind control them. And the idea, given the fact of what Mewtwo is and their personality, and given what happens in the last dungeon and how you traverse through that, without spoiling too much, it's honestly really brilliant, and I never would have thought of that. It's really, really creative. It's one of the things I love about that hack so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree that Psychic Puppets, like, unique, creative, ticks all the boxes there. I think if Fragments 2 wasn't in the nominees list, I think I would have called a stop the count or something. One of those, I would have I would have like thrown like there is not a world, an alternate universe where Fragments 2 doesn't get nominated, and that is simply because of the fact that it is just, it uses dungeons in a way that turns it from a dungeon crawler to a puzzle game in more ways than one. Each of the, like, there's 4 dungeons or 4 or 5 dungeons that are in that game, and yeah, it's just like, it's one of those games where I feel like I can't talk about it because it would spoil the surprise too much of what's in there. But I will say, which it is in a YouTube thumbnail. There is a Portal related dungeon, which is we'll talk about later.
That later. Yeah,
we'll talk about that later. But that is one of the that was one of the highlights of that hack. I admit I only played the good ending, or what was the happy ending, which is so I'm not I don't know if you two have any further things or any other unique or creative things that are there with sort of the other more canonical endings, but yeah, just the dungeon design itself, I think it really, like I said, I think it would have been the biggest snub if Fragments 2 didn't get there. So 8X, I know you're listening. I've probably gushed over Fragments for the first time.
First time in the pod
like this. So
yeah.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah. I remember you were mentioning there was a Portal dungeon too. All I can say is I can't believe Fragments ripped off Valve. This is so sad.
Very sad.
Seriously though, it's so well done. I played through the bad ending myself. And yes, there are multiple endings through this game. There are. I have met people who say they don't like multiple endings. I don't know why, but point is that they're all done really well, and you can usually generally, I think, decently easily find each of them as long as you look for little details. And they're not really, really hidden away, I don't think. You could pretty decently find them. So again, they're all accessible. Fragments Chapter 2 is going to be talked about a lot, I feel, in this. It definitely deserves it. They all do. All the hacks do.
Yep, and then Phantasme, which we didn't really touch on. This one is mostly on here because a dungeon that we're going to talk about later. Also, just really weird. This one and Fragments, but I feel like Phantasmi even more. I don't know if I pronounce it right either of those times. We literally had Argonian on the pod one episode, and I forgot. Argonian. I feel bad. The whole crux of this story is very weird. Very weird. There's some people I have seen, like, people do some write-ups about, like, what the fuck is going on in this game. You know, a lot of people like very confused by what's happening in terms of, like, I saw someone ask, is this supposed to be about schizophrenia? So if that description has you interested, try that hack. So yeah, for the interpretation of just, like, who the fuck even thinks about making this, I think there's definitely an argument for that one.
Without question. There are going to be times when you play this and you're going to be like, wait, is that supposed to happen in the game? Like, there'll be a part of the game where the first time it happens, it, like, crashes and you feel like, oh, the game died almost as fast as Meganium when sent out against a half-competent opponent.
Oh, no.
But then you realize, no, that's deliberate and it's part of the story and it's really, really well told. Again, I'm a stupid idiot. I never would have thought about something as creative as that. Shoutouts to you, Argonian, really. Not Meganium, though. Meganium sucks.
Hashtag fuck Meganium.
Hell yeah. Love wins.
Love wins. Anything else on this one, or are we moving on?
What do you think, Yakko?
Okay, let's go.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, did you have something, Yakko?
I don't. I was just staying silent in the shadows.
Okay.
Nice.
Next category, Best Boss Fight. Awarded to the most exemplary boss fight within the context of its hacked gameplay systems, narrative context, and other supporting elements, and the all-encompassing. We have Darkrai, Giratina, and Team AWD, Explorers of the Spirit, Mars Shadow from Blorg, and Mewtwo from Psychic Puppets. So, just a reminder for anyone listening to the pod who does not know, people that were on the jury could not vote for their own hack that they submitted. So I could not vote for Explorers of the Spirit submission here. The other two I definitely included in my list, and I think that they are both very, very, very strong contenders. We talked about that Marshall boss fight a decent amount on the Blorg episode, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's super, super unique. It kind of, I think it really changed my perspective of, like, wow, you can make a puzzle boss in this game and not have it be bad. You know, you can have it be good. And
I will say that
you go.
all three of the nominees were actually in my picks. So that was I can say that this was all three were perfect choices because they were in my picks. So obviously I won't say what order, but yeah, I think all three extremely strong contenders for Hack of the Year. Three very different fights, I think, as well. I think the Marshadow fight, very much a puzzle-based boss, fantastic. You know, Mewtwo in Psychic Puppets, one that is really, it is pretty much the magnum opus of the hack, and how it, I guess, just the set piece of it all, and then the final sequence of Spirit. All killer, no filler. That one, just the entire final sequence. It does very much feel like the end of a AAA game. In the sense that there's, like, you know, 2 or 3 multiple stages, and then the I feel invincible fight at the end, and it's just all three. I'll be really interested. I think all three deserve to win. I'm not going to be disappointed in any of them. If they win. So. Yeah, that's That's my thoughts on those boss fights. But 3 very good choices.
Oh, absolutely agreed there. Especially when it comes to like psychic puppets. Not to spoil too much, but the fact that there can be different kind of helpers, let's put it that way, alongside Mewtwo makes it unique. And then Explorers of the Spirit, how the dungeons have been set up to that point. You know, the idea of you're going up and you get all the items that you need to get through the dungeon. But when you're in the final one, before the final boss, you see orbs on the floor and you're like, wait, why? They don't work in boss rooms. And you go to the next one and then the aha moment hits. Simply a different take. And then everyone's said everything about the Marshall fight. I really, really, really like that one. And it's nice to see also bosses that aren't just necessarily drain the HP bar to 0. Again, just as you said, Yakko, any of those 3 win, I think it's a win no matter what. They're all phenomenal.
Yeah, psychic puppets. One other thing I want to say is that again, different interpretations for how you come to your winner, right? If you want to talk about just like wow factor, the twist that happens right before the Mewtwo fight is pretty cool. That's a very memorable moment. And you know, obviously, it also changes the dynamic of how the boss actually works. Like you're alluding to, Filthy. That one thing is really cool. Big fan. Anything else?
Nothing from me.
Nothing
Okay.
for me either.
Okay, cool. Next category, Best Cutscene Direction. Awarded to a hack with superior cutscene direction, including but not limited to scene pacing, usage of visual and audio effects, usage of background music, stylistic identity, camera manipulation, and implementation of actor and object elements. Nominees are Explorers of the Spirit, Future of Hope, and Psychic Puppets. I guess what I'll say here is I found it very interesting that the 3 that got picked for this category also lined up with the 3 that got picked for Hack of the Year.
Oh, we'll be talking about those again.
There's a direct correlation between this category and Hack of the Year. Will it be the same winners? We'll have to see. I wouldn't think so, you know, because Hack of the Year, everything goes into it. But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Is there even
as a person who works in data, I can there's a one old adage in data. Well, there's actually 2, but I'll use the first one that I thought of, which is correlation does not equal causation.
facts?
You know. So yeah, it's coincidence. I think yes.
For sure. I think something interesting. I've told both of you before that I play a lot of Pokemon fan games. Not like just PMD fan games, but Pokemon. And one of the things that sometimes happen with the Pokemon fan games is I notice a lot of them, especially nowadays, those who get a lot of like praise, they have like those custom animations. And that leads to Future of Hope, because I think what really sells the cutscenes there are 2 things. One, the custom animations. For example,
yeah.
You'll see Arcanine, whenever he gets mad, he
Yeah,
stomps
his
on the floor and
fire.
does-
Yeah, that
that's
shit's
cool.
awesome.
And then, of course, the custom graphics too. The end credit scene where Arcanine and Murkrow and Togepi are all just looking at the sunset, being like, "Yeah, we did it!" It's really neat, and it matches the graphical style of like a normal mystery dungeon game too.
Yeah.
It really sells the game, especially with like the cutscene direction as it is. Really, really nice. Explorers of the Spirit, you know, Max, you and I have worked together on this, so I will say this: yeah, you did a good job there. I don't want to go too far, and I've said a lot about psychic puppets too. I'll say the adage there of the relationship between Mewtwo and his best friend Mew3, let's call it that. Yeah, it's really nice, and it's nice to see Mewtwo as not just a "I'm going to destroy the world" kind of Pokemon character.
Right.
The one thing that I love about the cutscene direction is like 8X has such a bouncy style with cutscene direction in general,
Yes.
right? Very fast paced, very, and it just like there are so many apps like golds for scenes, right? In that game, almost every scene is a winner because of how it's almost like there's like a punchline at the end of it, and I don't mean that in a comedy sense, but there's almost like a payoff at the end, or there's just something in it that enhances the original, whether it's Mew 3 stressing out a lot and going back and forth, or the part where they meet Zatu at the Hill of the Ancients, or just Mewtwo in Treasure Town trying to be trying to act like a normal person. There's just a lot. There's a lot there, and then I guess Spirit as well. I mean, I'm probably the only neutral person here that can talk about Spirit. Again, just everything. You can tell everything has been meticulously crafted for the most optimal dramatic effect at any point in the game. It's just I talked about the Darkrai boss fight before. There's other parts in the games. The scenes involving Grovyle, for instance, or just Breloom. In general, any scene with Breloom. There's just a lot to love about all three, really, and again, very strong choices for all three when it comes to the cutscene direction.
Yeah, so I'll just say this. From a personal level, this is one of the awards that probably would mean the most if Spirit were to win it, because Filthy, as you said, we worked on a lot of these scenes together, like near the end of development. So there's so many just hammering out nitpicks for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of forget grammar and whatever. That's all take one, right? That's just the baseline. Then after that, we're talking literally. We would get on a call and argue for hours about no, there should be a 20 frame wait here. No, that should be a 30 frame wait. Stuff like that. No, he should walk at this speed. No, he should walk slower than that.
To put it this way, you guys, we were all talking about that in the beach scene as Giratina is about to look at Breloom, and meanwhile there's me just looking at Breloom going, man, that view's crazy. Just looking at a certain angle.
Iconic line.
Iconic. Oh yeah, but seriously, you put a lot. I don't want. Of course, you heard me over there recently talk about Spirit, and kind of a little bit. I don't want to sound biased because part of it is I did work on it. You remember that? You were there.
Yep.
But clearly there was a lot of meticulous effort. You really put a lot there. All of them did. Especially, and again, those frames on Giratina. That was a legendary conversation.
Yeah, no fucking kidding. This category is crazy. I love it. I guess I'm just kind of a nerd about this part of it, particularly, because from the perspective of Spirit, because Future of Hope and Psychic Puppets as well have the custom animations. Psychic Puppets implementing the locks, the 8X special, as well as a bunch of other fancy shit with all the screen transitions. He has the fucking bolded text, the double layered text, all that crap. All three of these have a lot of melodrama going on in them as well. That's another thing. Just a quick question before we move on. Do you guys think that for a category like this, cutscene direction, there's an inherent weight towards melodrama? Because I think that's here in all three of these hacks. But I don't know. Yakko, is that bad data? Is that correlation does not equal causation? Or do you think that there might be something there?
I'd like to think that some of my favorite scenes in Psychic Puppets were actually the more comedic scenes.
Okay.
I was going to say, yeah. It all depends on the kind of cutscene direction and kind of what hack you're making. Because if you're going to say a silly hack and suddenly it feels and you tell everyone your village was murdered, the cutscene weight kind of lowers, right?
Yeah.
There are times in Psychic Puppets where when Mewtwo first meets Blastoise, and he's kind of having a good jolly old time, and he's completely unaware that Blastoise is horrified that he's back after kicking his ass in Rescue Team. That's funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't lower the weight of anything else. It's funny. It helps. So I think the answer for me is like mix. It does, but it's not everything.
I mean, another hack that isn't, and another hack that isn't nominated, but I would also argue against melodrama is Blork. Blork had a lot of comedic cutscenes in it that were very well scripted, very well directed. Yeah, so I mean, I won't go into it too much because it's not a nomination. It'd look weird me talking at length about a non-nominee, but I will say that I would also argue that hacks like Blorg were also very strong for me in this category.
Oh yeah, man, I fucking love that hack. I hope all these hacks, they're good. You all did a great job on these. I need to stress this.
Yeah, seriously. This is I think all of us that were judging had this experience of as soon as we started having to actually pick our 3 and fill out a ballot, it was like, holy shit, this is hard. Like, this is way harder than I thought it would be. Yeah. Next category, most technically impressive. According to the hack that most greatly pushes the technical boundaries of what is possible within Explorers of Sky ROM hacking. We have Explorers of Alpha, Fragments Chapter 2 Facade, and Psychic Puppets.
I will start on this because I have a few things I want to say about this category. I think all 3 are extremely technically well done for 3 very different reasons. The 2 hacks that we've talked about before, Psychic Puppets and Fragments 2, I've talked about at length. We've talked about at length about the different things about, I guess, the technical aspects of it, which blends into some of the other things like unique creative. The befriend brainwash function with Mewtwo, as well as the Western Cave final dungeon and all that. Fragments 2, just everything in there, really. It's just it uses a lot of lower level coding and Explorers of Alpha, really. I think I when I first loaded up this game, I will admit, I went into this extremely blind. The only thing I knew about it was that it was a gameplay hack that changed the difficulty in some way. And I think that after you get through Beach Cave and everything, and you're presented with this list of options for runs that you want, right? There's like 5 or 6 different options, and then there's 5 or 6 options in that. The graphics involved as well. This game is that you can just sheerly, right? You could tell that a lot of work had been put into the different to create an experience for a wide variety of gamers. There are a lot of different challenge things that you can do. You can play like difficulty sliders and everything. It is a very versatile experience that you can and you can make it so no 2 plays are the same. If you want to do a super hard challenge that's almost impossible to beat, be my guest. If you just want to relax and play vanilla, be my guest. And I know Adex, he very much decided to go for a very I think it was a solo run with like Shedinja.
He did
and
Pacifist Shedinja as his run. He got quirky.
Oh my god.
So I mean, you could go like that. So I mean, like again, Alpha is one of those things where I think it would have been a shame if it wasn't nominated for technically impressive, because I think this hack has been in development for probably since the early days of SkyTemple, and I think just the sheer amount of stuff that has been crammed into it to make an experience for those who do want an experience that changes up the gameplay of Sky. It is extremely versatile in terms of its options.
Oh yeah. when I first played Alpha, well, for this, I decided I'm going to be an asshole. I'm not going to play it like this, but I'm going to see what happens if I click the randomizer option. Because not only can you select starters from like the normal Sky pool,
Yeah,
you can
there's like
select it from
10
like
lists
other
of
gens.
starters.
So I click the randomize button, and I get to my partner option. Eternatus is there. Eternatus from Generation 8. So the point of this is saying, yeah, this is so well made, or at least so technically impressive, they added mods from other gens. And there are other dungeons that have been altered too. A little bit of spoilers for the post game. Aegis Cave, for example, they thankfully changed it up to not make it collect the stones to go through. Fuck that shit. Anyway, there's a part where you have to like go through, you beat the three Reggies, you keep going. Reggie's, Aleki, and Drago are there.
Hmm.
Reggie, and there's a whole boss fight where you have to choose what side each of your guys are on, and depending on where you are, you could be fighting Aleki while your partner and the unknown you've eventually recruited, they end up fighting Reggie Drago, or it could be vice versa. And again, it's a lot of customization. I'm pretty high in general of Alpha because I know there's an idea of balance hack. It's just that, right? No, Alpha's pretty well made and it's had a lot of time into it. The comparison I would make would be either, and this will be a stupid comparison, Radical Red, or I think the more reasonable comparison, Unbound. Radical Red specifically because it's taking a base game, adding more stuff, raising the difficulty a little bit, but you have a lot of versatility and options. And then Unbound, because the difficulty sliders, there's actually a lot of stuff in that game in particular that kind of reminds me of how that game's set up. Granted, I've only played Unbound on intense mode, so you'll have to take what I just say with a grain of salt. But in spite of like my gamer rage with it, because when I play these kinds of games, I get, you guys hear me. But I really enjoyed Alpha. I really, really did enjoy it. And then what hasn't been said about Fragments Chapter 2 that hasn't already? And same with Psychic Puppets.
Unbound, Mond also worked on that, correct?
I believe so. Mond, if you did not, then forgive me.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he did alongside Skelly.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he was part of that.
For people who don't know what Filthy's talking about, if you're like me and you have your head in the sand until he had to explain this to me, those are main series ROM hacks or fan games? I think ROM hacks, right?
ROM hacks, that is correct. Fan games are RPG Maker. The ROM hacks are like the GBA stuff.
Yeah.
Do play Radical Red or Unbound, though. Radical Red is really fun, even though I rage every time Lance sends out the Primal Dialga with a roar time that damages and sends out your party. I'll rage about that.
Oh, that is cool.
Good game. Yeah, that's all. That's what I like to call pretty awesome.
Yeah, you guys have said your stuff on Alpha. The main thing here is, to sum it all up, the thing I kept asking myself is, how is there so much stuff that is crammed into the game? You know, like it doesn't make sense. Explorers of Sky already a game that like really pushes the DS, and there's not a lot of free space as far as I'm aware. You know, from my experience just looking at stuff. But somehow there's like 50 billion new mechanic sliders and extra mons added in and fucking everything. Talk about just content.
Play all of them, seriously.
Play all of them, yeah. They all have their arguments. Okay, moving on. Next category, best single dungeon. Awarded to the most exemplary dungeon within the context of both attack's gameplay systems and narrative. Your nominees are Adaptation from Fragments Chapter 2 Facade, Art's Cave from Phantasme, and The Orascape from Explorers of the Spirit. I'll start with A. Correlation or causation?
A for awesome.
A for awesome. So I guess the first thing I'll ask is, did you guys weigh the gameplay systems part of this more, or the narrative part? I think for this and the boss fight category as well, I'm definitely, if it doesn't play good, it's not going to make the list. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be good to play, and then for me, the narrative portion of it was extra, unless it's so obviously tied into it. Like, for example, Phantasme, like the Arts Cave, I should say, rather. That one's probably not on there because of like the enemy design, right? It's probably on there because it's fucking cracked and insane. So I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of balance there, depending on maybe what they're going for or what. But how do you guys judge that?
I think the word I would. You go ahead first.
Oh, you go, Filthy.
Oh,
no, after you, I insist. Oh, no.
Fine, I'll go. Damn it. I think the word I would use to describe is yes. I think they both, especially when it's Mystery Dungeon, where it's considered more of a story-heavy franchise, even though we could go into an argument about that all day. Anyway, point being, is that I think they both have to be there. So, like, to put some perspective in one of the dungeons, I first joined Team EOTS when they started with Horror-Escape, and I remember playing through that and testing the first time. Max was there, he could probably tell, and we're going through, I see the coughing, and he gets burned. I'm like, you son of a bitch. I know exactly what you did there. The idea that it was like one of the few dungeons that wasn't monotype, that it was a sun dungeon because of what happens earlier in the story with the character's aura, I think that was pretty well told. Adaptation as a whole in general, we've talked about this before with how, in general, Fragments kind of goes a different way of doing dungeons, so rather than fighting, they're puzzles. They're all really solid. They're all very good puzzles. Well, you could say the Boulder one isn't really a puzzle as much as it is a quick time event, but it's a fun quick time event, so it's fine. And then Arts Cave, I'll let you guys talk a little bit more about that, but without going too much into spoilers, there's interesting stuff that happens there. That's where I'll leave it at. Interesting in a good way, I just need to say.
I'm pretty sure we talked a lot about that Phantasme dungeon in our episode about. Remind me
we probably
again.
Did.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how Argonian did that actually.
I don't remember either. Argonian, I'm sorry, I forgot everything. I've already watched that episode. It's a good thing we recorded, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally.
But I guess to answer your question, Max, I think it depends on what the overall outcome is meant to be. So, Horror-Escape, for instance, the context of the dungeon and the fact that it is, the dungeon elements tie in with the story itself, in the so that it makes narrative sense. It's something actually that I know I'm going to be doing with one or two dungeons in my hack of the year 2023. It's a lock, Darkrai's Revenge. But yeah, it's sort of that. Whereas Adaption and Arts Cave, I think it's more. Well, actually, no. Arts Cave is also a very narrative dungeon, but Adaption itself, I think it depends on how well. Like, if I'm having fun, but I'm also being challenged in a unique way, then that works as well. So I think it really depends on what it is that the dungeon is trying to achieve. If it is doing something other than just find the stairs, beat up some Pokemon, go up to the highest floor, and defeat the boss. It's more like that.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because that was going to be my follow-up question. Because once I saw that these were the 3 noms, I couldn't help but notice that none of these are just a traditional, like, really test your mettle on PMD stuff. One that I'll just say I voted for was Western Cave Second Visit from Psychic Puppets, which was probably like the best choice out of those, that type of dungeon. But there was no representation from that. Like all of these definitely have some gimmick going on one way or another. Is that what the people want going forward? Have the people spoken? Is this what we want? I don't know.
I do think that as a whole, and I mean the fandom as a whole, but obviously, we can't tar everyone with the same brush. But as a whole, I do think that the various dungeon gameplay at the moment, it leaves a lot to be desired. And so when you see a hack that delivers something new with the dungeons themselves, whether it be fixed rooms, or we've seen a few hacks that have utilized fixed rooms, for instance, or dungeons, or in dungeon design, or just changing things up to find the stairs. I know myself, one of my votes went to the hero route of the temple in Blorg, where the Rock Smash, aka the Rock Smash dungeon. Again, that was a very unique sort of. It still had a traditional dungeon element to it, but there was something different. And I think again in Blorg you also had the which actually wasn't submitted as a by Nicola for consideration, but the Archon escape where he's running at double speed and the Mucks are running at half speed. So I do think that something that changes up dungeon gameplay like that, I think you're going to get a larger reception to a category like this than if you made a very well-balanced 30-floor dungeon that tests your skills. Like, yeah. I do think there's a crowd for the 99-floor dungeons. Like, there are people that love Purity Forest. There are people that do absolutely love Destiny Tower runs and Purity Forest runs, but I think on the whole, something that just changes up the standard gameplay, you're going to get a very good reception.
Oh, for sure. I think for me as well, for dungeon, atmosphere is also a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of them, just the ones here, they also have a different sort of atmosphere. One of the dungeons I voted for that didn't show up on the list was the Mansion in Delusion. I talked a little bit about the graphics of it earlier, how the enemies are a little bit unsettling, but then also on the ground, the TMs, and they clear the screen. And the great thing about that is you find a lot of monster houses. They go down to those. So you always have the tools to succeed too. And the atmosphere, it's a little bit haunting, but it's nothing you can't handle. It's like Mystery Dungeon, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I know that seems like you call the Mystery Dungeon thing a Mystery Dungeon, but it's really important to make sure it feels like the series.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Mansion was another that also probably falls under that umbrella of like a more traditional type dungeon. But again, like we say traditional, but even the ones that we're pointing out, there's something going on with them. Like even Western Cave, I guess, which to bring it back to that, like it does have the befriend and the little like puzzle in the middle, the ability to do the whole thing or skip the floors and all that. So, yeah, I don't know.
You guys are creative. You guys are just very, very creative people.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah, this category was stacked. I'm not gonna lie, because again, I was able to see what everyone voted for. There were a lot. Like the votes were very spread on this. You know what I mean? There's like no one really getting shut out. It was like, oh man. Everyone again like had very wildly different opinions, and it's like, yeah. To return to my question from earlier, I don't think it's been settled at all. People are looking for generally from their dungeon. Because everyone seems to like latch onto one thing and be like, that's it, that's peak, more of that. But everyone feels differently about that, so there's not really a consensus at all. It'd be interesting. The fan vote, I'm telling you right now, fan vote is going to mean a lot.
Oh yeah. And again, at the end of the day, we may be like judges for SkyTemple, but we're also just people. we're official, so we also have like various different kind of opinions on what makes a judge, or sorry, what makes a dungeon, and stuff like that. So I'm quite curious to see how the fan vote holds up too. It's gonna be really fascinating. Shall we move on, or?
Yeah, next category. Best single cutscene. Awarded to the most exemplary cutscene within the context of its hack's narrative, factoring in other elements such as cutscene direction and usage of custom assets. Your options here are Mew consoles Mewtwo, Psychic Puppets, the ending after the boss, Sharpedo Bluff scene from Explorers of the Spirit, Chapter 16, and Sunrise scene from the end of Future of Hope.
I want to point out, similar to what we discussed before, all three of these ended up as Hack of the Year nominees.
Yep.
Also fascinating enough, there's a scientific study that goes on, especially with performances, whether it be like sports or music. What people in the audience remember the most are either the beginning or the end of a performance. More often than not, the middle is also memorable, but it's the beginning and the end. So I think it's fascinating that for two of these three, it's the ending cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Again, I could gush about that hack all day. There are so many of them that just, for me, nailed it. Because again, the thing with Mewtwo that I've seen in this hack is that it's so easy to write him as just a destroyer of the world, because that's what he's supposed to be.
That's what
Team
he is.
Rocket makes him to
Right.
be like the ultimate weapon. But this Mewtwo has feelings and wants and needs and desires. And so when he actually gets like companionship at the end, it's really nice to see it vulnerable. Such a powerful being. I feel like there are a lot of hacks that do that with the legendaries, like the quirky legendaries. And that's not a bad thing, for the record. I think that shit's hilarious.
It's almost a SkyTemple
funny.
meme.
Yeah.
But again, this one is like Pirate for Alligator, dear God. But it's cool to see not just a quirky legendary, but a vulnerable one. It's ironically one of the most human Mewtwo's I've seen, other than the end of the first Pokemon movie. But professional writers. So good job, Adex. Good job.
Oh yeah.
I think out of all the legendaries, we haven't seen a Heat Train hack yet. I want to make one, but unfortunately, I have 10 other ideas at the same time. Essentially, the fact that Heat Train is the most forgotten legendary of all time. Anyway, I digress.
You're not wrong.
Tyone would like a word with you. But still,
Fiona, get it right.
To be fair, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce it. Technically, people still pronounce Ferrothorn's name as Ferrothorn, even though it's Ferrothorn. Nobody knows how to pronounce Pokemon names.
No, that shit's canceled. Whoever said that it's Ferrothorn, they're fucking canceled. Get that shit out of here.
I don't even know what Pokemon you're talking about. My knowledge stops at Gen 4.
The asshole Steel Grass type, who is a god in competitive. He's
Gen
one
5.
of the smoke gods, alongside Landorus. But yeah, I know for a fact, again, this is as part of working at Explorers of the Spirit. I joined again around the time where the Breloom scene was made. And I know for a fact a lot, and I mean a lot of care was put into that.
Yeah.
You, Max, spent a lot of, you were telling us in voice shop, you spent a lot of time specifically working up how that was. I think you said that it was like the crux of the game was on that.
Yes. I still think that is the focal point of the whole game. So I am. It was very relieving to know that when that scene happened, a lot of people responded to it positively.
Definitely. And again, what I was saying about endings matter. Future of Hope did really well with the end. I think, again, part of that is the graphics. That credits scene was really, really nice. And funny enough, it somewhat reminded me of another hack where I cannot remember the name of it because I'm brain farting super hard right now, but you are a Haunter, a Bayonet, and a Duskull. At the very end, it's a Gengar, right? And the Gengar looks over and it cuts to a credit scene and he's blinking in the credits. And that's cool. It reminded me a lot of that.
Oh, that's one of Tainted Tech's. Fuck, what was the name of it?
Cubone's Desire?
No, not that one. It was the special episode that he made for the Hack Jam.
Oh,
with that same Gengar.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Dude, what was the fucking name of it? Oh my god. By the way, Tainted, if you're listening, why didn't you submit for Hack of the Year? Motherfucker, I was ready to vote for you.
You could have as a write-in.
Yeah, that's throwing your vote away. We don't do write-ins. Well, someone did actually do a write-in for one of the categories, but that's another topic.
Interesting. Cool. I was gonna say I found it. No, I did not. That was totally something else. I'm looking through all these hacks, though. Man,
Okay.
A lot of good hacks made this year. Are we going to move on, or anything else we have to add?
While you're looking, just last thing I want to say about the Future of Hope scene. I think that it's that I almost want to say more so than all of these. It really feels like they started with that ending and worked backwards. Because at first, a little transparency on my thoughts when playing through that. I was my first time going through that game, I was kind of on board with it. I wasn't like super invested, but then I saw how it all came together at the end, and then it completely shifted my perspective and made me think that I needed to replay the game. How it all ended up leading to that moment was something that was pretty satisfying. And maybe I went in that first playthrough with my my cynical mode on of like not thinking it was gonna have a satisfying conclusion. You know what I mean? But knowing that it did really helped me appreciate the rest of the game too. So I think it should definitely deserve some credit for that respect, really tying the game up. And we talked a little bit about the psychic puppet scene in terms of how there's a lot of really cool effects going on during that, and there's the whole montage sequence and whatever, like 15 things layered on top of each other, and the fucking bold text and the fade outs and whatever, spinning Zadex.
Oh yeah. Divided Spirits, by the way.
Divided Spirits, thank you.
Faded, I'm so sorry. I fucked up the name of your hack. Sorry.
Next category. Best Dungeon Design. Awarded to a hack with superior levels that complement its gameplay systems. Your nominees: Blorg, Fragments Chapter 2 Facade, and Psychic Puppets.
All good choices, honestly. And again, I think, interestingly enough, 2 of the 3 have more puzzle-like elements to it than just normal. I would argue Blorg can be very puzzle-like, particularly when you have Lucario and the boss fight against Marshadow. It's very, very fascinating. We've talked about Fragments and how it pretty much changes the game on its head. But even then, even though I wouldn't count Psychic Puppets as much as a puzzle-like, particularly the last time you visit Western Cave, and you can skip huge parts of the dungeon if you recruit certain Pokemon, I think there is a puzzle-like element to that. Granted, that puzzle is get the certain Pokemon, but it's very neat. As a whole, it's very fascinating.
Indeed. I mean, it's. I think again. I think pretty much like the single dungeon discussion. I think dungeon design, all of these, they offer something different, and I think it's quite interesting to see the similarities between, say, the unique creative category, the single dungeon category, fragments and on all of them, dungeon design. It's just. I think I don't have much else to say because we've talked about these hacks a lot, and I think even Blorg, I kind of skipped ahead of time and talked about the dungeons in them, but certainly. again, all three have great dungeon design in them, but offer something different, just a bit like the single dungeon category.
Although
Yeah.
I will say this. One of the things that was described was like superior levels that also complement the gameplay systems. There
Right.
was one of them I voted for that you might not think it could be weird, but its system in the dungeon was to piss you the fuck off, and that's why I voted for the first day off. That was one of my votes. It did what it has to do. It clearly did.
It did.
I can't argue.
That's an interesting argument.
I will say again, much like the I know it's not up for the award, but much like the custom graphics in Samdo, I basically just left dungeon design all up to Cucumber. In hindsight, I probably wasn't a good dungeon tester because I probably didn't give enough consideration. But again, it was a jam, so we had limited time
It was fucking perfect.
Yeah, but all the revisions Cucumber's made since then have all been him. I will fully disclose that I haven't worked on it since the jam, yeah, it's but yeah, you are right though that I think for a good dungeon it needs to stand out and it needs to be different, and Blog, Fragments 2, and Psychic Puppets all change up that formula. One thing I will actually say, the one thing that we haven't touched on is actually the first pass through Western Cave and how teleporting out is the way that you exit
that
the dungeon.
shit blew my fucking mind when that happened.
Like,
what the fuck?
That was like the first instance of, okay, the dungeon experience is gonna be way different.
Yeah, that was insane. I think for me, this category is a little bit different than the single dungeon because it's you're factoring in your depth, right?
Yeah.
So Psychic Puppets, like you said, Western Cave Part 1. There's also the dungeon that's timed there. Like all those are pretty cool.
Yeah, Narrow Escape.
Fragments. There's the boulder going after you, like you said. There's the first puzzle dungeon at the start. Then Blorg, like we were saying, there's what got nominated in the dungeon category, but there's also the Escape with Archon, and there's the whole villain side as well, and there's that first dungeon which where Lucario and fucking Zorak and all of them are working together at the time. I actually like that one as well. I don't think we even talked about that very much on the episode, but yeah, all three of these, the depth is totally there. I will say, Filthy, you threw out the one that you voted for.
Yep.
You wanted to see some love. I put Amora on the high seas pretty high, which, spoiler, Amora wasn't nominated for anything on this list. I still like that hack. I don't know if that just makes me weird. I still like it. I love the replayability so much, and to me, I kind of had to weigh, like, is that gameplay systems or is that dungeon design? I kind of sell it on dungeon design, I think, just because the fact of, like, there's a million DMs getting spammed everywhere is, like, something that literally you add to the level, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also just funny to have a Feraligatr with, like, Grass Knot or something like that.
Yeah, I know. It's so really replayable. Really replayable, really fun.
Definitely a fun hack, and in my opinion, the best pirate Feraligatr.
And
this is coming from someone who wrote the Chip 2 pirate Feraligatr.
Right.
Yeah, Captain's great.
At exactly the same time.
Oh my
Classic.
god, that was not deliberate. I swear to God, that was not deliberate.
Next category.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Best character. Awarded to the most exemplary character within the context of its hack's narrative, including additional elements such as their individual depth and gameplay story integration. Breloom from Explorers of the Spirit, main character from Explorers of the Spirit, and Mewtwo from Psychic Puppets. So,
I got some beef with you, Max.
Okay.
I got some beef with you, right? I think there's an argument here that this is the only category where 2 nominations were like self-nominated things were allowed, and up to 2 per things. This is the only character
Only
where
one.
one hack has 2, and I will say that the fact that your hack occupies 2 of the 3 categories blocked Mitchell from Retold getting up there.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
It's public in the hack discussion channel in SkyTemple, so I can say this. Mitchell from Retold was 4th
place
in the jury list, 4th place, and so all because 2 characters were allowed from each hack, and so I hope you're happy.
It's tough. It's tough out here. Tough business.
Yeah. I remember first playing through Explorers of the Spirit, and Max, you might have read like my forum when I first sent the feedback one. And I remember specifically saying, wow, this Brayloom character is kind of a fucking weirdo. I mean, I was fucking brutal on him. I remember me and my friends, shout out to you, Rez, or listening, we were mocking him the whole time. But then the updates start coming on before we get, and you see Brayloom begin to change. He's like, oh, wait, there's something here. And it gets more and more interesting. And now I'm the asshole. But seriously, though, yeah.
That's the intention.
It is funny that 2 of your characters got on here. It's deserved, but it's also funny at the same time. I'm going to also throw a little Mewtwo. I've already talked about how cool it is that something so monstrous in lore can be written so human, which I really appreciate. I'm going to give a little love to another character who I nominated, Noxa from Delusion. Noxa's whole thing being, it's a character who she just wants her friends to be back. And it's just very relatable because it's going to be like one of the last times you see. And the whole game, you wonder yourself, why is she being kind of a dick to them? And then it's explained. I just feel it's relatable. Also, shoutouts, I didn't vote for them. They just missed out. Captain, I just mentioned. I fucking love Captain. He's the best pirate for Alligator. I will go to the grave saying that.
Let's go.
Better than the Pirate for Alligator you wrote.
Yep.
No insults to Chip 2. I'm sorry. I'm kind of realizing I'm kind of sounding like I'm insulting my own thing. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
He's
Sorry,
too
guys.
humble. He's too humble.
No.
I will say that Breloom was my favorite from. I don't know. I think out of all of the characters, I think he's like that guy in an adventure that comes in and he has there's absolutely no stakes whatsoever. Like, okay, he has stakes, but what I mean is how do I
He's
explain
just
it?
a guy. Is what you're
He's
saying.
just the guy that comes along every so often to offer advice. He's like the guy that drags the plot along by giving inspirational speeches. You know what the type of character I'm talking about in Hollywood movies. But he is written he's written so well. I think he was a fan favorite character. Just in general, I know that for a fact from talking from Max and just the general discussion on Spirit. The main character of Spirit, very well written, probably one of the most, dynamic and complex main characters written in all of the hacks. So really good. And yeah, Mewtwo. We've talked about Psychic Pups a lot, so I don't think much else needs to be said.
Yeah, I'd also say the main character of Explorers of the Spirit, it's one of those rare cases where you know exactly what the twist is going to be from line 1, and yet it's still very interesting to watch it go down. And you know that the creator knows this because they even make a nod after a twist is revealed. The bad guy says, and I quote, "You already knew that, didn't you?"
Phil, you're getting me nostalgic for when this stuff was getting written. Goodness. Something I'll say for this category is, I was thinking of having to order all the categories is so hard, and I'm also having to do this for all the fucking trailers that got submitted because they're all so good. I have to order them all, which one's gonna be shown first and whatever. I think best character And honestly, call me out if I'm just wrong on this, but I think it belongs somewhere in the second half, like close to the end, because let's think about it. This shit is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. This is literally the best furry OC category, folks. What could be more important to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon fans on the internet?
And yet I will find it funny that 2 of the 3 are not furry characters. The main character is may not be one, depending on who you choose.
I was gonna say, you say furry characters. I don't see a single Lucario on there.
Gorgonzola robbed. Gorgonzola robbed.
Oh wait, I just realized the main character could be a Riolu in Explorers. Shit, never mind.
Oh shit!
Fuck.
Oh man.
Okay, this episode's getting demonetized. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, I don't want to like talk too much about character writing for my own hack. I will say the fact that both Breloom and the main character got on here, I think that there are definitely 2 very different sets of people that will gravitate towards liking one or the other as their like preferred character in the game, right?
Which probably explains why they're both there.
Right. Right. Because Breloom, like you were saying, Yakko, in especially like the middle part of the game, he's primarily in a comic relief role. He's there to just break up all the bullshit that's happening, and the main character is in the middle of the bullshit the entire time. So, different strokes for different folks, and also different. They totally see things differently, right? Despite how parallels within the game of how similar they are, blah 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 blah. I would be hard pressed to meet. I guess the way I want to word it is, in real life, I don't know how many people you would find that would want to be friends with both of these. You know what I mean? Like they're just so different.
Yeah, I know what those people are called. Psychos.
Shouts to the partner, Explorers of Sky.
Oh, hell yeah, brother.
Certified psycho. Moving on to best gameplay design. Awarded to a hack with superior general gameplay systems. Nominees here are Fragments Chapter 2 Facade, Merchants vs. Pirates, and Psychic Puppets. Shout out to Merchants vs. Pirates, who was the bridesmaid rather than the bride on a lot of these categories, because like the full votes got revealed. A lot of 4th places for Merchants vs. Pirates, but ended up getting nommed for this one. Best gameplay design for the scoring system, as well as I guess depending on judge interpretation, maybe that's also adding in how all the characters have different move sets as well. The fact that there are 4 different characters, maybe the wands. So how liberal you want to get in your definition, of general gameplay functions.
I definitely think Merchant versus Pirates, there is a lot going on in that from a gameplay perspective too, and I think this is a really good example of a short gameplay, a short-ish. Well, I say not short-ish, but there's actually a lot of replay value in it, with 4 different play styles, and the fact that this was made as a jam hack as well, like that was pretty cool, right? It was only done in about 3.5, 4 weeks. I forget if that was made in the one that was extended by like up to 5 weeks or something. I don't know, but yeah, this is another example of a hack that is primarily a gameplay hack, but does it in a way that is super accessible. A lot of players can find a lot of fun in it. A lot of systems there. There's a high score system. Like there's a lot really there in the gameplay that I think really really makes it deserve the nomination. And it's a bit of a shame that it isn't in some of the other categories, but at least it's in this one, and I'm happy for it.
Something I can give credit to it too, as someone who hates Gen 7, probably more than any other gen, other than maybe 9 before patches, if the game eventually does get patched, or probably 4, specifically Diamond and Pearl. Platinum's good. Point is, if you notice, like, in this world, it's set up like Alola is. The first few dungeons are set up like the early routes on the first island, then it gets to the second island, and then the very end of the game, you go to Ultra Space, just like in Sun and Moon. And then you fight Ultra Necrozma, just like Ultra Sun and Moon. It's really fascinating how they can put in all these sorts of systems, and they build a world too. It's really cool how they're able to manage both. And like you said, Yakko, in a game jam game of all things.
Embers for Pirates fucking cracked. The other two on here, I think for these other two, we talked a lot about the dungeons. For gameplay design stuff, I think for Fragments, it's more so. I'm thinking about stuff like the whole thing of like streamlining the different modes and all of that. Like at the start, being able to choose your warp spot, things like that. That's pretty cool. And the stuff in between, like having to look at the sign and do all that. To me, I think that kind of falls, because that's not a dungeon, right? So to me, that falls under general gameplay system. Just kind of like the flow of how that game works, kind of. That's all pretty cool. Psychic Puppets, I would say, mostly like the brainwashing, which is, we brought that up in every category so far, it feels like, but it's cool. It's cool.
There's so much we've talked about with the Psychic Puppets, especially. Oh my god. You just realized it's been nominated for so many things.
Like every single fucking category.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Fragments, too. Both deserve to keep in mind. Dear God. God bless.
So done with that one. Moving on. Best Narrative. Award to a hack with superior storytelling derived from its writing, independent of other elements such as cutscene direction and usage of custom assets. So, just the script. Just the script. Nominees are Explorers of the Spirit, Explorers Retold, and Future of Hope. Now, from what I'm hearing, yakkomon earlier on my favorite website, discord.com, stated that if TMD Retold does not win this category, he will get the guild to storm the Exploration Team Federation headquarters. Is this true?
You have heard correctly. If I don't win, this election was stolen. I will not accept the results. I will, I will get my legal team to do a recount, and you will find that all of the ballots they can all be chucked out, and you can just certify me as the winner.
Just like American politics. That's pretty awesome. Seriously,
Absolutely.
though, I really like how Explorers Retold, there's so many machinimas that are made in like YouTube and stuff. But Retold, it was actively, and I mean actively, people loved watching it every single time it was released. There was a literal community around that. And that really goes to speak about how well the narrative was told there. Because, again, it may be like retold, hence the name. But there are differences throughout the script, little differences on how the characters interact with each other. Because the main character has a personality other than, here's a blank slate who repeats everything the partner character says. So again, that's credits to like that entire script. Explorers we've talked about, Future Hope. I think a lot of that narrative, again, comes down to presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I personally loved Future of Hope itself. Just, I think Future of Hope was, and because we haven't had an episode about this on the podcast, I haven't sort of talked about this a lot, but I do think Future of Hope was Future of Hope was in the same hack jam as Psychic Puppets. And Turnabout Dimension as well, which was another tainted hack, right? Those two pretty much dominated the discourse of that hack jam. There were a number of other hacks that that really, the first part, like the voting for the one, and the fact that we don't have a formal nominate, like the hack jam system really hurt recognition of Future of Hope, and another hack that wasn't actually submitted for consideration, City of Light. Those two, but yeah, like for the hack of the year, City of Light wasn't submitted for hack of the year consideration. So unfortunately, we couldn't vote for it. But Future of Hope, very much for a short hack. Like, I was surprised at how much I really, really enjoyed it and really connected with it. And it's, I think it was pretty much, it kept building. It sort of started very normal in the sense of, I guess, like just plot-wise and all that. But Future of Hope is really an example of something that starts small and then builds and builds, and you connect, and it builds and builds. And really, that's what stories are about. Like, you don't need to instantly fall in love with a story straight away, but if it keeps you engaged, or in my case, I had to play it because I was jury. But what I meant was I was a judge on that hack jam, so I was going to play it no matter what. But even if I didn't, this would have been a hack I would have actually picked up and played, irrespective of anyone recommending it to me, because it's just one of those ones that oozes a lot of charm, and like I said, very well written. And I think it's going to be quite interesting as to, like, all jokes aside, it's going to be very interesting to see what wins compared to a lot of the other categories, because I do think that, say, and I can speak from experience with Retold myself, but also, a hack like Future of Hope and Spirit as well, they do tend to attract a different crowd. Like, I know with Retold, there are lots and lots of people that I interact with who are not active in the SkyTemple server. Like, they're fans of Retold and nothing else. Like, they're the fan fiction crowd, and I think that's what I really loved about Future of Hope, is that it is a really quality piece of writing. That builds and builds, and kind of, that just the way everyone interacts with each other, the custom anime, like, Tainted would gush about Psychic Pup. Sorry, not Tainted, Filthy. Oh god, there's the first blooper. Filthy gushes about Psychic Puppets. Adex gushes about Fragments. I am the one that will gush about Future of Hope, because there's just something about it, something about the writing that connects. It's, I've probably said the same point 3 or 4 times over, but it is a really, really well-written hack. And here I am talking at length about another hack when it's up against my own, but I don't care, because, I want it on the record about how much I really do like Future of Hope's writing.
Oh, yeah. I was also a jury member for Hack Jam 3, and it's really interesting to see how much over time people have been able to connect more with that. Really,
I totally agree as well. While you were talking, Yakko, I brought this up. Future of Hope during Hack Jam 3 won 0 awards. And now at Hack of the Year, with a larger pool of competition, has been nominated for 4 awards. So, I mean, I guess just going back to my personal experience, I think that this is just one where the second playthrough is better. And I think that was just the experience for a lot of the people that judge this game, who, maybe the first time they played it during that jam, they're like, whatever, and then they went back to it, kind of knowing what happens. They're like, yeah, this is like really good. I know I had that experience. as I talked about. So, or I kind of realized that by the time I got to the ending first game, because like you're saying, it builds up. I want to say, I voted in this one. My number one was Spanky and Munchel's Day Off. This is not a meme, okay? Everyone is saying this is not a meme. This is not a joke, okay? You can write comedy and have it be the best written shit that's come out this year, and I really think it is. Like, you gotta understand, folks. I have been on the AC fanboy train since day one, okay? Y'all motherfuckers are fake fans. I've been on day one, okay? This has been what I've been waiting for the whole time. It's everything before this. It's been like, you know, there's some good parts, but it's like maybe just like clean up the presentation a little bit, you know, like maybe keep it more consistent or whatever. All these little nitpicks that keep thinking in my head. This is like what I always thought could be done in the Ass Cucumber writing style. Shit is so fucking funny. There's that whole ramble I went on in the Ass Cucumber episode of the pod of like all of the different like references to other media and how it thematically ties with what's going on with the game. Because like, yes, it's a comedy, but there is actual, you know, plot and thematic relevance that's going on in these if you bother to like pay attention to what this guy's saying. I think in this game especially, it's like I think I get a genuinely interesting perspective of like inside the mind of the writer. You know, that's something that I usually look for. You know, if I feel that way, like I'm getting some kind of superficial connection to the artist through the art. That's always a positive to me. You know, gotta love those parasocial relationships. And it's just funny as hell. It's funny as hell, and dude has a very, very interesting perspective on life. You know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? A film. I was gonna say the year of the film, but whatever, I forgot. I'm not really that much of a movies person, but a movie that, you know, celebrates the act of being carefree by being a carefree movie. This had very much kind of in the same style. It really seems like just a celebration of that as one aspect of it. So, you know, the elements of all the conspiratorial shit that keeps coming up and the commentary on that's kind of like bold-faced said to the camera at the end of the game. And all that other stuff. So, had to give some love for Spanky Munchel's Day Off, because that was one where I immediately wanted to replay it. Not because it's a replayable game necessarily, but because I knew the first time I finished it, I'm like, I definitely missed some detail. So I need to have a second playthrough and see what I missed. You know what I mean? It just got that impression that there's more breadcrumbs to pick up. And I love that. So shout out to that hack. Did not make it onto the noms, but that's okay. I understand that that's always going to be a niche pick, but I had to give it some love on the pod, as well as all the nominees that are there.
Oh, for sure.
Filthy, do you have anything to say on this one?
Yes. So narratively, I've talked about like fan games and stuff like that. The one I've played the most are games I call Reborn-like fan games. Those of you who don't know, Pokemon Reborn is a fan game that uses a weird thing called field effects, and it's a really nice game, but the tone of it is far darker than a normal Pokemon game. So like things like Reborn, Rejuvenation, yes, Max, that's a Reborn-like, Desolation, a lot of them are darker in tone. So going into like SkyTemple in comparison, you notice how light a lot of these are. And in particular, one hack, as I'm playing through it, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this character is absolutely going to die. in A More on the High Seas. Because, pirate for alligator, he's retired, he's old, he's helping on this last adventure. Clearly he's set up to die, because, the bias mean, that's how Reborn would write it or something like that. So here I am playing through, and I'm pleasantly surprised to figure out at the end of the game, he doesn't die. In fact, everyone goes off happily, and they have a great life. So for me, I put A More on the High Seas as one of my nominees. And the reason I did that is because it was like one of the first times playing when I was like, wait, this could be a positive thing. And it was really fun to watch. And it's really cool. And it's lighthearted and it's fun. And there are serious moments. But it just makes you smile. Still, I also say those comments of the Reborn-like games with all the love in the world. They're fantastic games. And if you're old enough, definitely play them. Rejuvenation in particular is a trip. But I don't want to make this podcast about that. I've gone on so many rants.
I actually feel the same way about Amora. I also had Amora in my list of 3. Really lighthearted. We talked about it in the Slumbrion episode in pretty deep length, but I just love the sincerity of it, and I don't really know how to describe it besides most of what I said about Frankie and Muchels of their. It seems like Slum's personality is really like bleeding out into the character writing, especially a lot of those interactions that Amora and Captain have.
I'll just say it's nice to see pirates that are just lighthearted and fun and not there because they are in a bad future and led by an evil little British girl with powers. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. Again, all the love in the world, Rejuvenation team. Hi, if you're listening to this for some reason. Dear God.
Oh man. Let's talk about talk a little bit about Retold as well, Yakko. She was great. I think a lot of people who haven't done something to this extent, right? Of by nature having to stick so close to the source material, it's very, very, very easy to either A, make it boring because it's just the same thing, or B, have the changes that you do make immediately drift into the uncanny valley. And neither of those happen here. I mean, just that alone, to me, I think is worthy of praise because that is not easy. Especially with established characters that people are so incredibly familiar with, right? Like there's like new scenes being written for there's so many of these characters, forgetting the whole there's a main character that speaks and whatever. That's its own thing. That's hard to pull off in an interesting way as well in a story that's not originally designed around that, and kind of these are things where the end result, I mean, it's close to Explorers, but anyone who's listening and thinks that makes it easy, I invite you to to try and do something similar to this. You're quickly going to realize there's just a million landmines to work around. This shit is not easy. So, definitely respect where respect is due there. I think, definitely not upset to see any of these on the list.
Why are you all so creative? Holy shit. You guys are so good.
DMD ROM hack.
Oh, yeah. You think we should move on?
Best hack in progress. All right, number one question that I've received, even though I've explained this a bunch of times, I'm going to do it again. When hacks were submitted for Hack of the Year, each creator could only submit one hack, even if they created more than one. A lot of people are asking, why is there this restriction? Because if you're someone who's created 25 hacks, the jury's not going to play all of them. because they have to play every hack that's submitted. Some of these, such as Explorers of Alpha, Explorers of Spirit, are 20 plus hours long. So yeah, had to pick one. If you did choose to submit a hack in progress, the ruling there is that you are only eligible for the best hack in progress category. And you could submit later in future years as either, if it's still in progress, you could submit as a hack in progress again, or you can choose to submit it as a completed hack, and then that's the last year that you'll be on the ballot with that hack, and it'll be eligible for everything. And another question that I get a lot, how come hack in progress hacks can't be eligible for every reward? And the short answer is because I don't think anyone wants the same hack to win Hack of the Year like 5 years in a row, which that could potentially happen down the line. Like let's say there's a big team that comes together and starts making, PMD5 and SkyTemple. I mean, that's certainly possible. It's certainly possible for them to win Hack of the Year like 5 years in a row, even though the game's not even done yet until year 5. So that's why this rule exists. But best hacks in progress, awarded to the best hack that is still in progress as of the end of 2022. Such hacks are only eligible for this. Our nominees are Explorers of the Unknown, Lonely Roads, and Rainbow Heritage. Lonely Roads, which we talked about 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Really a last-second entry compared to these other two, which is the interesting angle, of course, that I kind of wonder if this one's going to be like gaining momentum. I guess there's only less than a week left of fan voting at this point, but when the judges were playing through this is like very, very soon after it came out. It's kind of like built up more and more and more traction, and the word's kind of spread around this hack to the point where I wonder if this is gonna make a dent and steal this category. That's an interesting angle there. Explorers of the Unknown is looking to be probably the next full-length hack that's going to finish. It's pretty far right now. And we did a whole episode talking about that with Espic and Rainbow Heritage as well. We talked about that one. That's the weirdo tactical RPG plot twist for the age. And there's a Pichu.
And there's a Pichu. Nice.
I will say three very different hacks. I think I'm going to be very interested to see what comes out of this in terms of the voting, because like you say, Explorers of the Unknown is a very long hack. Rainbow Heritage is a medium-length hack that will once it's released, and also shakes up the gameplay. And Lonely Roads, I would presume it is also going to be a longish hack, but at the moment the demo is quite short. It's a very short play. So yeah, I'm like you, Max. I got no idea actually where this is going to go, because all three are very different. All three are very, very, they all deserve to be up there. I don't think there are any shocks really with this category. And yeah, it's hard to talk about without showing any bias, because I think all three are very well made, and just in general, I think I don't really have much to say about this category other than it's just going to be interesting to see what the fan voting will do for it.
And I think interestingly too, a lot of like the personalities of each of them, the creators come out. Like in Rainbow Heritage, it's very creative, it's very tactical, but there are secrets too that you can find buried away. So it's a matter of finding those secrets. Lonely Roads, you guys talked about last week. It seems like very funny, very quirky, just like Okami. And Explorers of the Unknown, I had the opportunity to work with Espic. You did, Max, too. It's very analytical, very smart, very, very, very creative. And similarly, the way like Explorers of the Unknown works, there are all sorts of creative things there. I think what stands out to me, for example, is the first boss fight, Wormadam. You're in that battle, you're doing a fight, there are some IQ skills that are equipped with the Wormadam, and then you beat it, and you're like, okay, that's awesome, we finally won. And then Wormadam decides, nah, you're just gonna fight me again. And then the character's like, what? And then you just fight it again, and it's the same fight, but it's presented in such a way. Like Wormadam's like a Karen, and he's just so great with the character.
Yeah,
Again, credit to all three of them. I
that
think their
fight-
personalities come too.
that fight. I remember I was a beta tester for I think the build that ended with that fight. So I was gonna call with Espic at the time. I remember when that happened. I wasn't really mad, but I just told him, I'm like, you know, everyone in the YouTube comments is gonna get pissed off at this, right? And he was like, yeah, I know.
It was so funny. It was so fucking funny. Yeah, and again, it's nice to see boss fights too that are more than just get the HP bar to 0. It's tactical because you have to account for IQ skills too. I believe that team with the type Noah is something similar as well. So yeah, good stuff to Espic there. Good stuff to all of them.
Yeah, I think, as I've said a couple times over the course of the pod, I think it's very hard to judge Hack in Progress, at least the story part of it, for me, because the story's not done. So what you can determine is the tone, how good is the dialogue, like is it super fucking stilted, or does it seem like more believable dialogue and stuff like that, and of course the cutscene. Those elements are still there. In terms of actual, I guess the things that I'd be thinking of, like script, like for a best narrative type of thing, personally, I didn't weigh that at all for Hack in Progress, because the story's not done, so how can you do that? I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I kind of just threw that to the side, and I was thinking probably more just on like premise, general gameplay style, and also just like their visual style.
Yeah.
Cutscenes.
For me, I think instead of like script, I like to grade it based on tone. I think Lonely Roads and Explorers of the Unknown both feel and are written like mystery dungeon games. Rainbow Heritage may not be, but it's still written in an extremely quirky and fun way. That is very similar to like the Game Freak style. Even I'd say in Gen 9 with characters like Arvin and Nimona, they're very quirky, kind of like some of the characters in Heritage. So, point being is they're all very, very well written. The tone is super established.
Any thoughts on that, Yakko?
Yeah, no real thoughts from me. In the sense, I think it's the same. It really, I do think story does come into it a little bit in terms of, you know, the premise. Where is it going? I think, you know, you kind of have to, you do kind of have to judge the story, even if the payoff isn't there yet, because, like, look, if the payoff it turns out to not be that good, well then, you know, then you can say they bottled the ending and it doesn't get nominated for Hack of the Year when it in the completion state. But, you know, I do think this award does show the hacks that have, you know, a lot of potential and potential, I guess, potential hacks to look out for in the future.
Heavy hitters in.
Yes.
And that brings us to, all of a sudden, we're at an hour and 50 minutes. Hack of the Year.
Wow.
Awarded to the best hack that was fully released in 2022. So this factors in everything. You know, it can be just take all the individual categories and tally them up. Maybe that's how some people did it. Maybe it's you think some things weren't accounted for in the other categories, and you're including that. Maybe you think some categories are more important than others. You weigh those more. Whatever. Hack of the year. What's the best thing you played? Your nominees are.
Well, I won't tell you. I won't tell you what my best thing was.
Okay.
But I will say, and sorry if I cut you off, Max. But I will say that I am very surprised Future of Hope made it, right? Because I genuinely thought that I was the only one that was going to vote for it in any of the categories. It'd be, fed to the wolves. It wouldn't show up, and another hack would take its place. Like I am pleasantly surprised that Future of Hope made the cut for the top 3 because I was not expecting that at all. To me, it's still a hack that I think. To me, I thought it was underrated. I still rated it as an underrated hack in the sense that not a lot of people know about it as such. We touched on it before, but yeah, I think if we talk about surprises in the top 3, Future of Hope really is the surprise nomination there that I think at that point, I as a fan of the hack, I'm just happy it's there. Like it's not even a case of whether I think it deserves to win, because they all deserve to win, obviously. But I'm just very surprised that it made it. I'm very surprised that it got the reception that it did from the judges. And yeah, because I just didn't think with the judging pool that we had that Future of Hope. But because I know, and what I mean by that is I know some of you guys personally, right? I know some of the guys on the jury, and none of you really talked about Future of Hope as a hack that is in the top echelon of hacks. And so yeah, that to me was, I'm very happy that on a personal level that Future of Hope made it in, because that was in one of my nominee lists for Hack of the Year.
The Future of Hope is the, if you were, if you're going to use a sports analogy, this is a Cinderella team for sure. Yeah, like you were saying, given expectations coming in, I don't think, again, even you voted for Future of Hope and you did not think it was going to be in the top 3 for Hack of the Year, but here we are.
I voted for it for recognition purposes and to give it a boost. Now, I like to maybe scrape in for 1 or 2 of the categories. I was not expecting that. Like, I was expecting the sunrise scene to probably turn up, and I was probably expecting it to maybe turn up in narrative. But yeah, just the fact that it has gotten nominated for 4 awards, it just It really is, like you say, well, no, I won't say underdog, because that implies that they don't have a chance to win. It is the Cinderella team of the hack, and
Right.
once they're there now, the fan vote can change it all.
The fan vote changes everything.
Yes, all 3, there's no write-ins for the fan vote, so one of those 3 will win. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see it. What will take it out? Will it be Spirit? Will it be Future of Hope? Will it be Psychic Puppets? Will Baroness, a person who we have not talked to at all on the podcast
At all.
Holy shit, you're right.
Will she come through and take the glory and the prizes? I will say, I will declare public interest. She did make my Mitchell and Sparky portraits with the scarves, but that's there's been no vote buying here, I can assure you.
Money laundering.
Interesting thing, Yakko mentioned the 3 nominees were Explorers of the Spirit, Future Hope, Psychic Puppets. Before I give my thoughts, I just want to say I'm reminded of that scene from Harry Potter when the professor asks, "Why is it when always something happens, it's always you three? Have you noticed how often?"
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'll also mention this. All three of them are there. Yakko has mentioned this, and I'm not gonna lie. I gush over Psychic Puppets a lot. I think it's a very, very well balanced hack. Explorers of the Spirit. I've been a part of that, and I did not vote for it because of I'm on the team. I want to see that well. But I will say, I think the care that's been put into it, it's very well there. My thought process of voting for the hacks were, it's not just about being Game of the Year. It's gotta be like something that I think has a huge influence. Future Hope 2 is huge on that as well, because look at how it does it with the cutscenes and like the presentation, the custom animations. Spirit was like the first hack that was like a complete custom story and everything like that was completed. Psychic Puppets literally swept away the competition. It destroyed my beloved City of Light. I was so sad that didn't win any awards, except for like one. Even
Filthy, let me cut you off for a second. Tactics earlier in the chat literally comments, talking about the City of Light thing. He said, I submitted for Hack in Progress because I thought I could escape ADEX, and now he's in the credits for Unknown.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
just want to point out, even there, like for City of Light, I used to hate Ultra Beasts because of like their stats rare. Now, I still hate Ultra Beasts more than anything, but Celestial is funny. Anyway, but I will say this. Like I mentioned in the middle of this, that I thought like big part of it was like an influence on the community in SkyTemple. So I do want to give a shout out to one more that I thought was also a good nominee. He did not get nominated up there, but I gave it a little shout out there. Explorers of Alpha. Regardless of the difficulty, regardless of all of that, I think the fact that it is so technically impressive, the fact there's so many changes, the mechanics remind me of, well, they are Drayano. Like the Blaze Black and Bolt White, a lot of those, they are from there. It adds a fairy type. There's so much there. And, I've seen other communities. Alpha gets discussed a lot, and I know the downloads for Alpha are huge too. So the fact that it is such a big influence, I do want to give like a shout out to Alpha there, because I do think it deserves some sort of mention. All of them, again, you guys knocked it out of the park with hacking. So that's my little shout out of the day there. Hi, Mond, if you're listening to this. Hi.
I kind of agree, Filthy, even though I guess looking at my list, I didn't factor that in too much. I kind of just did my three favorites, but for other stuff, right? Like when I'm doing like my album of the year list, for example, I definitely think of like what represented the year. That is usually something that ranks that factors into ranking once you get into the top like 5 or top 3. Just nailing down what really was the number one. And that's definitely true. Think of how many times across this podcast we've said X creator, was inspired by 8X, right? It's like literally every single episode.
It's only a matter of time before next year you guys come up with like a hack creator of the year and you get like single individual. It's only a matter of time. I know this if you're going for like a season 2. 8X is going to sweep. I know it. Hi, 8X. Hi.
To that point, what I voted for, one that we talked about a little bit before, I gave some love to Merchants vs. Pirates on my ballot. I was very impressed by it. I actually still play that game. I didn't play it just because I'm a judge. It's like I have a half hour to kill and I want to boot up a roguelike, and I don't feel like playing a different one today. So let's do a run of Merchants vs. Pirates. It's turned into that for me. I really like that game. Really like it. I'm going to stress again, if you haven't played the updated version and you've only played the original Hack Jam release, please play the updated version. Like it's unbelievably better. It's unbelievably better. Oh, goddamn. That's the funny kick on me. That one. I think. Yeah, talk about next year, man. I think that the creator of the year and whatever. I have this weird, like I kind of talked about during the Frankie Munchel's day off and whatever, of like sometimes you play through a hack and it's like you feel like the big one's coming. You know what I mean? I feel like for a lot of creators, that Kekleon being one of them, I think the big one is coming in 2024. Like the one that's gonna really blow shit up. I just get that feeling. Because Murders vs. Pirates is so good. I don't know. I'm just repeating myself at this point, but goddamn, I love that. Yakko, did you already talk about this one? You said the thing about Future of Hope. Anything else?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, my 3 actually matched the nominees, so I don't have much else to say. Just my surprise at Future of Hope getting in was my main point there.
Well, alrighty then. The top 3. Who will it be? Who will win Hack of the Year? Find out!
Next time, Dragon Ball Z.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, Filthy. We broke 2 hours on the recording. This is our longest episode, I think. I already said that one time and it wasn't true. So, but I think this is our longest episode. Honestly, I thought it would go longer. We kind of kept it under wraps until the end when we couldn't contain ourselves anymore. But
that's pretty blessed.
Seriously,
though, thank you for having me, guys.
Hell yeah.
No worries.
Thank you all for listening. Hack of the Year stream going to be on January 21st, 2023 on this YouTube channel. It's going to be a YouTube stream. Be there or be square. It's going to be crazy. Also, there's going to be trailers for upcoming hacks. Didn't even mention that, I don't think, in the intro.
A lot of trailers.
A lot of them. Oh my god.
We're going full Jeff Keighley Game Awards with this.
Yes, sir. Sony, where's my Game Journo check? So I could put your AAA cinematic third-person over-the-shoulder game for Game of the Year.
I'm
all
so
right.
excited.
Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.